Across the silent ridges of ancient Anatolia, where mountains pierced the heavens like jagged spears, and shadows crawled across the earth like ghosts, there lay a cave no one dared to enter. It was a hollow carved by time itself, a wound in the mountain that seemed to breathe with every whisper of the wind. For centuries, travelers passed it with uneasy glances, sensing something sacred or cursed lingered within. Some said it was a tomb. Some said it was a gate between worlds. But few knew that deep inside rested a secret that defied the very fabric of time itself. It began long before the cave became a legend. In a kingdom ruled by arrogance and fear, a tyrant sat upon the throne, a man who demanded not loyalty, but worship. His statues rose across the land. His name echoed in temples, and his wrath silenced every tongue that dared whisper the word of one unseen. Gods of stone and gold ruled the hearts of the people. Yet in the midst of that blindness, 7 young men refused to bow. They were scholars, thinkers, and dreamers. Men whose hearts burned with light while the world around them drowned in darkness. They saw deception where others saw tradition. They saw truth where others saw power. And when they spoke of it, the city turned against them. In the marketplaces, they were mocked. In the courts, they were threatened. In the palace, they were marked for death. But courage often begins where fear is born. One night, under the cover of trembling stars, they made a choice that would echo through eternity, leaving behind everything: wealth, family, name. They slipped through the silent streets and vanished into the wilderness. The world they knew ended behind them, and before them stretched mountains wrapped in mist and mystery. They walked until their feet bled, until hunger became pain, and pain became prayer. The only thing that kept them moving was faith that somewhere beyond the ridges there would be refuge. When dawn rose, their eyes caught sight of the cave. It stood hidden between cliffs, its entrance half covered with vines, as if nature itself wished to conceal it. They entered, breathing heavily, their hearts pounding with exhaustion and hope. The air inside was cool, ancient, carrying the scent of earth untouched by man. They decided to rest there, just for a while. They didn't know that this single moment of rest would stretch into centuries. They prayed for protection and peace. Their voices echoed off the stone walls like faint thunder. Then silence. And in that silence, they laid down 7 men and their loyal dog curling beside them. Their eyes closed, their breathing slowed, and then time itself stopped. The sun rose and set outside the cave as days turned to months, months to years, and years to centuries. Civilizations rose and fell. Kings died, empires crumbled, languages changed. But inside that cave, nothing moved. Their bodies remained untouched, their souls suspended in a sleep no dream could reach. The cave became their cocoon, their sanctuary against the storm of time. The mountains grew older around them. Trees sprouted and fell. People forgot their names, forgot their story, forgot that once 7 men had vanished to protect a truth greater than themselves. Then, after 300 years, the silence broke. A shaft of sunlight pierced the mouth of the cave, falling upon their faces as if awakening them from a long and gentle trance. One stirred first. His fingers twitched, his eyelids fluttered. His chest rose with the first conscious breath in centuries. Across the stone floor, another moved, and another until all 7 awoke together, confused but alive. They sat up slowly, blinking at the dim light filtering through the entrance. The air smelled different, their limbs stiff but strong. They looked around and saw the same cave, yet something felt changed. The silence had weight to it, as if the world outside had forgotten them. "How long have we slept?" one asked. The other shrugged, guessing a night, perhaps 2. They were hungry. One offered to go to the city to buy bread. His name was Yamlika. He reached into his pouch and felt the cool metal of silver coins, still bearing the king's face. He smiled faintly, unaware that the face on those coins belonged to a ruler long dead. He stepped into the sunlight and froze. The mountains looked the same, yet the path below had changed. The trees were older. The road wound differently. It felt as though the earth itself had shifted beneath him. Still, he walked toward the city, following instinct and hunger. As he entered the town, his heart pounded. Strange buildings lined the streets. People dressed in unfamiliar clothes. Their words carried odd tones, and their eyes looked at him curiously. He felt like a ghost walking among the living. He approached a baker and placed a silver coin on the counter. "A loaf of bread, please." The baker lifted the coin, examined it, then stared at Yamlika with wide eyes. "Where did you find this?" he demanded. "It's ancient." Yamlika frowned. "Ancient? I just earned it yesterday." The crowd around the shop grew. People whispered, touching the coin as if it were a relic. The baker's voice trembled. "This king died centuries ago." Confusion rippled through Yamlika's mind. The ground beneath his feet felt unreal. The city he once knew had vanished, replaced by something born of its ruins. They dragged him before the city's leaders, men who questioned him about his name, his city, his king. Each answer he gave deepened their disbelief. When he spoke of fleeing persecution for his faith, the whole grew silent. The leader's eyes softened. He realized this man was no liar, no madman. He was a miracle made flesh. "Show us the place you came from," they said. And so, Yamlika led them back through the valley, up the mountain, to the mouth of the cave. The wind howled as if sensing the return of destiny. He stepped inside, calling softly to his companions. They turned toward him, their faces calm as dawn. When they saw the crowd approaching, they understood. Their story was complete. They had been preserved not for escape, but for revelation. They had become proof that time bends before divine will. A faint smile crossed their faces as their hearts filled with peace. One by one, they closed their eyes again, not into fear this time, but eternal rest. When the people entered moments later, they found the sleepers still and serene, as if asleep once more, untouched by death. The cave became sacred ground, guarded by reverence and awe. Some said a faint light continued to glow inside, as if their souls refused to fade. The mystery spread across lands and tongues. The tale of men who slept for centuries became a riddle to scholars, a wonder to believers, and a challenge to skeptics. How could life pause and restart? How could flesh survive the weight of 300 years? No answer satisfied the mind. because this story was never meant for the mind. It was meant for the soul. The cave became a symbol of refuge, of faith, of the eternal war between belief and disbelief. People built monuments near its entrance. Some swore they heard whispers from within, voices praying, wind moving like breath. Others claimed to see shadows that vanished when approached. Scientists tried to reason it away, calling it myth, legend, impossible. But the mountain kept its silence, and the cave kept its secret. For within its darkness lay a truth older than reason, that time itself obeys the command of the unseen. Others came and went, pilgrims and wanderers drawn by something they couldn't name. Some brought offerings, others questions. No one left unchanged. The air around that cave seemed to hum with unseen energy, as though the boundary between this world and the next grew thin at its mouth. Even birds circled it cautiously, as if nature itself respected what slumbered within. Generations passed. The city below expanded, roads reached farther, empires shifted again. Yet the story of the sleepers refused to die. It was told by firesides and in royal courts, whispered by mothers to their children, debated by scholars who sought to dissect every impossible thread of it. But for those who believed, it wasn't a tale of impossibility, it was a mirror reflecting the vastness of what lies beyond. Understanding. They said time was only a servant of will, and faith the key that commands it. The seven had become more than men, they were symbols carved into eternity. The cave that had once sheltered them now sheltered meaning itself. And yet, the deeper mystery wasn't how they slept, it was why they awoke. Why after centuries of stillness were their eyes opened once more? Some said it was to prove the reality of resurrection, to show that death and sleep were but twins in the hands of creation. Others believed they were brought back to bear witness to a world transformed by belief, to see that the truth they had died protecting had finally conquered the land that once hunted them. Whatever the reason, the moment they awoke, the world trembled ever so slightly, as if acknowledging the weight of what had occurred. The very wind that touched their faces carried the scent of centuries gone by, the echoes of countless lives lived and forgotten. They had crossed the impossible bridge of time and stood as travelers between eras, between what was and what would be. The people who found them built shrines in their memory, marking the cave with symbols of reverence. Stories diverged. Some said 7 sleepers, others 8, some gave names, others only numbers. But the essence remained unchanged. Men who chose faith over fear and were rewarded with a miracle that transcended mortality. As the tale spread beyond borders, it reached lands that spoke different tongues. Yet every version carried the same heartbeat, hope in the unseen. Even as centuries continued to roll by, the cave remained untouched, guarded by silence and legend. There were moments, they say, when storms broke over the mountain and lightning struck near its entrance. And yet the cave never took damage. It stood immune, like a fortress built by the very hands of destiny. Modern explorers who claimed to have found it spoke of strange sensations inside. A feeling of warmth without fire, a sense of being watched but not threatened. Some described a low hum, like distant chanting that faded as quickly as it came. No instruments could record it. No explanations could contain it, and perhaps that was the point. Because the cave was never about answers, it was about awakening. About reminding humanity that every era sleeps in its own way, some in ignorance, some in pride, some in comfort. The story of the sleepers was a warning as much as a wonder. That when the world forgets its purpose, it drifts into slumber, and when the right moment comes, awakening will be inevitable. Some philosophers have drawn comparisons between the sleepers and modern humanity. They say our caves are not carved in rock but in distraction. Our sleep not of centuries but of awareness. We chase noise, comfort, and illusion, forgetting that truth waits quietly in the silence, like light behind a stone. The tale of those 7 men is thus more than a miracle, it's a reflection of us all. We too will one day awaken, to find the world changed beyond recognition, to realize that the things we thought eternal were fleeting, and that faith alone bridges the abyss of time. When they awoke after centuries, they didn't know who they were to history. They didn't know that their names would be whispered for millennia. They simply awoke, hungry, tired, human. And that simplicity makes their story even greater. Because it wasn't grandeur that preserved them, it was sincerity. They didn't seek fame or miracle, only refuge from tyranny. Yet the universe itself bent to shelter them. That is the secret thread woven through every miracle. Divine power hides in humble intent. When faith is pure, time itself kneels. The dog that slept by their side remained at the entrance, its posture eternal, as though guarding them even after life left its body. Some say its presence symbolized loyalty beyond understanding, proof that even the simplest of creatures can become part of the divine plan. The cave's interior, according to travelers, still bears 7 smooth depressions in the rock, as if bodies once lay there untouched by decay. The air feels thick yet calm, and anyone who stands too long near its heart claims to hear their own heartbeat echo louder, as if time slows in respect. It is said that when the wind flows through at certain hours of dawn, the sound resembles breathing, as if the cave itself remembers the rhythm of their sleep. Even the villagers nearby speak softly about it. They say at night, when the moonlight slides across the mountain's face, a faint shimmer can be seen around the cave's mouth, like silver mist twisting into the shape of unseen figures. But no one dares to approach then, because everyone who's lived near that mountain knows some mysteries aren't meant to be disturbed. They exist not to be solved, but to be felt. And this is what makes the legend eternal. Its truth cannot be measured by logic. It lives between reality and revelation, between what science can touch and what the soul already knows. Years turned to centuries again, and yet the story of the sleepers continues to be told, as if humanity itself cannot stop retelling the reminder that we are more than flesh and time. We are bound to something infinite, and every once in a while, a story like theirs cracks open the surface of reality to show us that the impossible is only a word we invented to cage wonder. If you listen closely to the wind among ancient hills, you might still hear a faint echo of their breath, or perhaps it's your own reflection reminding you that sleep and awakening are closer than you think. Their cave remains somewhere in this world, hidden from eyes that seek proof, but visible to hearts that seek meaning. It waits, not as a monument of stone, but as a living question. What if the true miracle was never their sleep, but ours the sleep of mankind, forgetting the timeless truth within. And perhaps one day, like them, we too will awaken and find that centuries have passed while we dreamed of control. That the world has shifted while we chased shadows. And that all along, the cave was never out there, it was inside us. Waiting, watching, ready to open its eyes once more.